Hey, this is Mike Durr, and listen, I wanted to get this information out to you because I was thinking the other day about this whole last 2012 and all the loans that I did, the people that I've met, the realtors that I got a chance to interact with, and I thought that, you know, what could I do better this year or this next year in regards to the loans and the time it took. And it's really all this is about is the time it takes to get loans done. So I kind of broke down what I thought were some of the key delays. And I got to tell you, the number one delay is on the client side or the borrower side, where they just don't really do a great job of getting me the docs that are necessary for a mortgage in today's market. And I figured out a couple reasons. One, they may be poor record keepers. And you know what? If you got poor record keepers, then it's just going to take longer for them to gather all this stuff. And a lot of times, if you're asking for information, and we do, that are 2 years old, they don't have a clue where last month's stuff is, let alone 2 years ago. So that's a problem. Another problem I've seen is that they're not sure exactly what that I need. And of course, that's on me because I've got to give them a very precise list of documents that they need. So that doesn't happen to me very often, but sometimes they don't read it or they don't watch the videos that I do. Number three, borrowers' financial docs are in storage. A lot of times they're moving, they're in transition, they're either from the military, they're just out of school, or whatever the case is. Maybe they're in the transition of a move, but they don't have access to their docs because they're in storage, they're in boxes, maybe they've been moved. So this is a problem, and guess what? It holds things up. Another one that I found is when borrowers don't have a fax machine or access to a fax machine or scanning equipment. When this happens, the transport of documentation to me, all of a sudden it becomes a lot more harder because we usually have to do it in person or we have to do it via mail, God forbid, and so that makes things run slower. And keep in mind, I cannot get a file into processing, or I can get a file into processing, but I can't get it into underwriting without all the stuff, okay? So that's a big deal. Here's like two more things. Some borrowers that are self-employed, they're complicated. It requires reviewing tax returns. And the tax returns, sometimes they're open to interpretation a lot of times. And of course, self-employed people do everything they can to limit or reduce the amount of income that they show on their tax returns. So it just makes it a harder loan. And then the last one that I'm going to mention here are the people that have all kinds of investments and stuff, and their tax returns could be 40, 50, 60 pages long. I'm actually working on one right now that's probably more than that. It's an amazing amount of information that's on there. So that's the borrower side. The second part is some of the out-of-box loan scenarios that we deal with. And I give you an example. Anytime you have low FICOs for the program, perfect example is this, is if FHA, if you're doing sub 640 purchases or refis, it's a problem because they come under more scrutiny. So that could cause some extra time. Same thing on conventional. If you're under 680 and you're doing a high LTV loan, it's going to come under more scrutiny. So it's going to take the underwriter, they're going to be more discerning, it's going to take more time, I promise you. Funds for down payment. This is the big hoop that we jump through, and if there's not a clear path on what the funds are that we're going to use for the down payment, it's a problem. Now, it can be a gift, that can be a problem, or maybe they sold something for the down payment. Anyway, to track that down payment is difficult, it's hard, and it causes extra time. If you're working with foreclosures, you know, we're buying a foreclosure property, guess what? Sometimes the seller holds us up. And you know, I don't even have to say anything about short sales. They're a hassle, big time. Here's one that I've seen a lot lately, is purchasing a new home while you still own a home. And this is not unusual for people that are moving in from out of state. They're coming to Houston or coming to Texas, and guess what? They still own a home in Nebraska or Tennessee or something that they haven't sold yet. They want to sell it, it just hasn't sold yet. That creates a whole second set of rules that we have to follow to make sure that we have everything. Here's one. Judgments, or borrowers have judgments or collections that haven't been cleared off their credit report yet. They may have been paid, they may be satisfied, but they're not designated so on their credit report. So it takes a while to get this stuff done. And then finally, if they're purchasing renovated property, particularly on a flip type thing, you know that one of the things that we have to do is we have to show, the seller has to show what all they did to that property before an underwriter will let that deal go through because of their flip rules that are in there. So anyway, this is not meant to be a complete list of things, but this is a good example of the type of things that can slow down a mortgage and cost you extra days, weeks, months, whatever. And I thought it'd be good for you to know what these happen. And let's say if you have a listing and you talk to the mortgage guy, he gives you a pre-approval letter, you might ask some of these questions. Do any of these things pertain to this particular borrower? So you'll know and you can tell your sellers what the deal is. And then if you're working with me, we'll talk about all these things when we go through this, just to make sure that we have the timing right. So hopefully that's helpful to you. I'm not making excuses. Guess what? I'm not the perfect loan officer. I know that. I haven't found the perfect mortgage company, but I do care. I try very hard, and I appreciate your business. So thanks for taking a minute to listen to this. I look forward to talking to you soon, and Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah.